There we go. Now you can hear me. All right. And wow, I had a really great intro going on. It was a perfectly good thing going on, and I messed it all up. All right, here we go. We'll start again. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, as always, David Burrows, and thanks for coming by and joining me here today. I was just saying how, yes, these are frustrating times. And even though they're frustrating times, I still say happy Monday, everybody. And somebody said to me earlier, what's happy about it? Well, you can have the positive mindset or the negative mindset. Which one do you choose? I get it, right? It's frustrating times for everybody around the world. We're all being impacted by this, and we have to find ways to stay positive. And we're so used to the technology and it's such a fast-paced moving world that we're not used to being told to slow down, right? And we're having to do that. Now, that being said, the technology can be our friend as well. I'll be posting a link after the show to talk about some things that you can do online. A friend of mine from Lambton College sent me a long list of at least 100 things you can do online, from the Smithsonian online, the museums online, take a virtual tour, take a trip to France. There was one that I saw where you I forget what it's called. You put it up on your phone, you hit the button, and it randomly takes you to somewhere on the planet, and you can start looking around. How about a tour of Mars, right? So there's lots to do. You just have to take the initiative to maybe gather around the big screen TV in the living room, and as a family, do things together. Everybody's got a different situation going on, and try to remember that if you think you're having a bad day, ask somebody how theirs is going. There's probably something worse going on in somebody else's life. And it's a time to not be selfish, but to collaborate and support each other. And when I talk about the technology, and thanks everybody for the letting me know about the audio. I apologize for that. Speaking of the technology, one of the places I want to show you this here, a lot of you probably know about the quarantine sessions that have been happening around town here. Let's just see if I can bring that up here for you and show it to you. There it is. This is absolutely amazing. And I was talking to Kevin Mitchell, who's one of the founding members of putting this together, which was fantastic. And we're seeing so many musicians, not just locally, but around the world, discovering this group and performing in this group, which is fantastic. Interestingly enough, for me, I mean, I love the music, right? Who doesn't love good music? But the other thing that I found really interesting about this is I'm seeing people perform in this group. I didn't even know they could play an instrument. I had no idea that they were playing the piano or the guitar or the kazoo or whatever it is, to the point even got me in there singing a karaoke song, because that's the thing I used to do, right? So it's great to see this coming together and people trying to help each other out with their positive music. That being said, this past Friday night, we had the Friday Night Music Fever, the first ever. And it was a great success. I want to say thank you to our friends at Blackburn Radio and K106.3 for supporting us and allowing this to happen. So what we did was we went online on my Facebook page and several others, and the K106.3 Facebook page, and we had 4 live performers join us for about a 2-hour live musical session. It was fantastic. We had so far over 2,500 views on that performance. So it's fantastic. So fantastic that we're going to do it again. K106.3 has agreed to keep supporting it. They've been putting commercials out on the radio to tell you all about the Friday Night Music Fever coming up this Friday night, April the 3rd, pardon me, at 8 p.m. I don't have the full list of performers just yet, but I can tell you it's going to be another exciting evening of solo acoustic performers and maybe a special guest in there too. There's me teasing. So check that out. Mark it on your calendar. Do what you got to do to tune in on the Show with David Burrows page or the K106.3 Facebook page. Friday Night Music Fever. We're going to have a great live performance. And get this, and I know she's out there. I think she's still out there somewhere. I have a special co-host going to join me. Yes. And she is excited. Yes, she is very excited. Who is it? Julie Coulombe. Yes, Jules and Company, who was one of the performers last Friday night. And she brings so much energy to everything she does. And it was suggested that maybe she'd be my co-host, and I'm happy to welcome her. She'll be joining me as well. We're going to have some fun in advance of the performances. And who knows, if it goes really, really well, we'll just keep doing it every Friday night. And if once our 4 performers are done, there's people around and you want more and they want to perform more, then we'll just keep going, right? So I want to say hello to, Judy's out there, the group of the quarantine session. She's enjoying that. Tim Curtis said it was great, referring to the Friday Night Music Fever. Do I have the link for Friday Night Music Fever? You just follow along on my Facebook page, The Show with David Burrows, or you can follow along on the K106.3 Facebook page. Just go into Facebook and find them there. And that's where it will be. Who else is out there? Oh, Jeff Hayden. Yeah, he's giving a shout out to Kevin Churchill, who started the quarantine sessions. And Melissa, Kazoo Life. And Melissa is one of the members of Beer Store Money. I should give a shout out to the performers. We had I Shot the Messenger, who is Ian Linton, all the way from Ottawa, originally from this area. And he was doing a rap rock thing. And he did a fantastic job he started trying to get things off. We had to switch things up a bit, but he did perform for us and had a lot of fun from his little tiny dorm room in Ottawa. Jules from Jules and Company, she gave us a fantastic acoustic performance. And then we had my friend Dan Butts in there, who was also performing. And then Beer Store Money finished things off, and they're famous for their kazoo. So that's what she was talking about, kazoo life out there, Melissa Miller. So thank you very much to all the performers that were there. And of course, we're looking forward to seeing, once again, coming up Friday night, Music Fever, April the 3rd at 8:00. All right, to be serious for a moment, to give you an update, I did an interview with our Mayor Mike Bradley, on Saturday. I was very thankful to him for his time and give us an update. And he was very straightforward with a lot of things that were happening. I won't go into all the details, but if you want to watch that, it's also on the Facebook page. I also was interviewing Dr. Haddad, who is the Chief of Staff for Blue Water Health, with some updates, and Chief Norm Hansen from the Sarnia Police Department. And we'll be having them back likely again to have some more updates. I've reached out to some other officials as well. Hopefully we'll be able to bring that to you. So keep watching daily for that. This morning I was on a conference call, a media conference call, and you might have heard this already, but I wanted to give you the COVID-19 update. Because remember, you got to get this stuff officially from what I say, the horse's mouth, right? There's so much going on out there, and I have the cure for COVID-19, just so you know. Yeah, it's been sent to my inbox like 20, 30 times. Get your information from the right places. Government websites and the official websites, in my opinion, are the best place to get the accurate information. As of this morning, I was told on the media conference, currently in Sarnia area, there are 28 cases of COVID-19, and now 4 fatalities or deaths have occurred in the Sarnia-Lambton area. So there's the seriousness of all of this. And I say it like that because I know there's still people that are not practicing what the government is suggesting. And here's my prediction, honestly, folks, and you're probably not going to want to hear this. Here's my opinion. We're 6 months away, in my opinion. I don't want to be the guy to think that way, but in honesty, I really think we are 6 months away from getting back out in a regular routine, or what we were used to as normal. That's a long time. So here's the thing. If it's 3 months, we better figure this stuff out, and how we're going to get along with each other, and how we're going to cohabitate and adjust and do what we need to do. Because if we don't, it's going to get worse. And I truly think that, unfortunately, it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's not a negative way of thinking. That's just I get emails every day from officials. I'm on the calls, and it's just a feeling and a hearing that I'm getting. You know, they're being careful about what they put out there because they don't want to create any confusion about what's going on. Mayor Mike Bradley, when I talked to him on his interview, he even kind of suggested he thought that the Canadian government should have the country shut down right now. So there you go. what do you want to say, right? So, again, currently 28 cases confirmed and 4 fatalities currently happening in Sarnia, and that number is likely to increase with the spike that we saw yesterday of how many. I think, don't quote me, there's like 64 now in Canada. So, and it was quite a spike from a couple of days ago. If you want the information, you want to find out more, there is a COVID-19 hotline here in Sarnia. The number on the screen, 1-877-4-SARNIA, or you can call 519-332-0932. I will be posting updates daily as there is a media conference every day at 11 o'clock. So pick your news source, but I'm taking it right from what they send me and posting it, and that's what we get out there. All right. Well, moving on to our first guest, of course, with all of this happening, the government, of course, is putting out some support for all of us in many different ways, whatever situation. They recognize that, putting out billions of dollars. What about the nonprofit and charitable organizations that were planning fundraising events and need that money to survive? Will they survive? Well, we're going to talk to our friend Dave Brown, who is from the United Way of Sarnia-Lambton. Dave, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks, David. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for the heads up about my mic. I get gabbing and I don't pay attention to my chat. I had everybody yelling at me.
I assumed it was at my end, so I'm delighted it was on yours.
Yeah, right. Well, before we get into all this, you sort of heard my lead into all of this, but my first question is, how are you doing, sir?
I'm physically very well, very good. I'm in constant communication with the staff at the United Way, who are all working from home, all linking in both with their PCs and with their cell phones. Everybody in the immediate United Way family is doing well, and I certainly hope all of your viewers are as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an interesting time where we. I don't know about you. I've probably reached out to some people that I haven't talked to in a while and thought, well, maybe I should just send them a text or say hello and see how we're doing. You're working from home yourself, right?
Correct.
Yeah. How are you adjusting to that?
It's not bad. In many ways, it's the work is spread out over a longer period of time. It's not just 8:30 to 4:30. It's like 7:30-ish till whenever.
Right.
Which is okay. The neat thing is my home office provides free coffee, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, that's good. All right. I have that here too, but I do it 1 cup at a time, so I don't drink too much of it. Well, you had some interesting news. We talked quite a bit yesterday to kind of set up for what we were going to share today. You actually got some surprising news from the government.
Oh, we did. I guess it was on Sunday. I was watching the Prime Minister's address at 11 a.m. or so, like everybody else. And we were delighted to hear that $9 million from the New Horizons Fund for vulnerable seniors will be invested with the United Way of Canada, which will filter down to all the United Ways in the country to help vulnerable seniors specifically with how they're dealing with the COVID-19. We're delighted that the federal government has the confidence in us and in our volunteers and in the community agencies to look after that kind of investment and to put it where it's going to be most needed.
Well, that is fantastic news. That's a lot of money. And so when the word money comes out, I'm assuming that your phone lit up pretty quickly. How do I give me money?
You're right. I got a ton of phone calls and emails. The truth of the matter is we're light on details right now. As I indicated, most of us were surprised and heard about it at the same time everybody else in Canada was watching that. We're hopeful we're going to get more information very soon, and the money's going to flow through very soon. But in the meantime, David, the United Way of Sarnia-Lambton, I think, is a bit of ahead of the curve. On Wednesday or Thursday, we announced the new Compassion Fund, which we set up for the community of Sarnia-Lambton. We initially put in $18,000 for that fund, and that was for any charitable organization in Sarnia-Lambton. They don't have to be already funded agencies. Any organizations that can legally issue tax receipts or donations are eligible to apply, and it's set up to help them cope with the increased need for services, for basic services, food, clothing, shelter, mental health, and safety. And already we've been getting many donations from the community. In fact, I'm really impressed. Today alone, we had 13 donations to that fund to add on to the 18,000 we already had in it. On Saturday and Sunday, we had another 14 donors. So it's starting to pile up. We've also had some local industry that has shown some interest and have asked us details on how that funding will be used. The bottom line is it's flexible, one-time funding to help those agencies cope with the increased demand. And we've already approved 3 agencies, one of which is the Family Counseling Center, who operates the Distress Line Telecheck.
Oh, yeah, right.
Almost fully funded already by the United Way, but they are being inundated by calls from seniors and others who are quarantined or self-isolated, asking a number of questions. Some of these folks are very anxious. Some of them are dealing with mental illness. So you can imagine how highly specialized some of these calls are. So the Family Counseling Center had requested $5,000 to hire staff who can take on those additional calls. So the board had unanimously approved that. The Boys and Girls Club in Sarnia's downtown core, although they're not open in terms of their after-school drop-in center now like they usually are, staff and volunteers are working behind the scenes, making sure that the families of the children that they support, many of whom are living paycheck to paycheck and may not be getting a salary right now or a paycheck right now. They're making sure that those folks have the necessary food items, hygiene products. And keep in mind, those children may be quite dependent on nutritional programs in schools, which are not happening right now. So they can get that $5,000 funding there as well. And then the third one we're really proud about is our partnership with the Salvation Army. They've had to go out and purchase additional food items and hygiene items, and they're dealing with 15 to 25 families a day, more than what they're used to handling. So we're very pleased to be able to funnel them cash probably as soon as tomorrow, $5,000, so they can buy some necessary supplies there and try to meet with the current needs. If I could just point out, and I know I've monopolized this part.
No, you're making my job easy today, Dave.
any charitable organization in Sarnia-Lambton can apply, whether you're a church group or municipal group, or whether you're funded by United Way or not. If you're meeting a need in the community with those basic core services, and you're able to prepare a tax receipt, you're eligible to apply. And any interested volunteers, any interested charities can go to our website. It's right behind me, www.theunitedway.on.ca. And right on the homepage is a link to a 9-question form. It's very simple to fill out, but we want to know exactly where the money is going to go and how the money is going to be used. And then our board will do approval within 48 to 36 hours on that. So if you just scroll down a little bit further on the website that you see there, you will see the form. I think it right there with charities. And like I said, we're happy to review those requests as we get them in. And just above that, there's even a link for people who want to support the United Way with donations to this particular fund. 100% of people's donations through that fund will be used to help agencies. There's no administration, there's no fundraising costs, nothing. So you can give online by credit card, or you can call the office and do credit card facilitation over the phone. Or I will even make arrangements to pick up a check or cash if that's most convenient for the donors. We are delighted to see the community step up and support that fund and the wide variety of agencies that are looking at applying for funding.
Yeah, well, that's this is really great news for many different reasons, right? Because it's funny how much we rely on money. I mean, we always do. Yourself, the organization of the United Way, always raising money. All kinds of organizations locally raising money, but now, like, we're in a situation where there's no book on this. Like, this hasn't happened since something like this of like World War II magnitude, right? Like, this is
right.
a world that word pandemic, which some people don't seem to know what it means, but this is all a new learning process. I would think for especially your organization as well. Like, well, how do we decide on $9 million, or how do we decide on $5,000? Like, where does the balance come from?
I mean, you and I have been around this community for a long, long time, and thankfully, we're blessed to live in this kind of community. And I've been working at the United Way for 34 years, and I have never come across anything like this before. Some communities have had floods, and some United Ways have had to step up locally. Some United Ways have had other, fires and disasters where they've stepped up. But again, I think the strength of the United Way movement throughout the world is you're governed by a local volunteer board of directors who make those kinds of decisions that best meet the needs of the community, whether there's a book on it or not. And we've got 15 outstanding volunteers who first heard of this idea Thursday afternoon, and we had the necessary approvals and whatnot in place. 4 hours later, we had our website uploaded and an online form ready to accept applications. So, that's a testament, I think, about not only our United Way, but United Ways around the world, how quickly they can react to meet local needs in the community to continue to make it such a great place to live.
Yeah. Well, and that word local comes up often with the United Way of Sarnia-Lambton, and it's good to have you back because it's been a while. So, I mean, I thought it might be different circumstances you were here, but it's good that you're here nevertheless for the reasons that people are needing support in organizations. Let's talk local for a minute. You're very well known for saying that 100% of the dollars raised in Sarnia, United Way of Sarnia-Lambton, stays right in Sarnia-Lambton.
In our community. There is 1% of our funding that goes to the United Way of Canada, but we get services back for that 1%.
Right.
We get a lot of government research. I mean, they've been lobbying with the federal government to consider United Way as an investment for any kinds of disasters and for 211, etc. So now we're going to get, a lot of that money back. We don't know how that $9 million is going to funnel down and how much we'll get in Sarnia-Lambton, but because of our membership with the United Way and because of our dues that go to the United Way of Canada, that gives us access to that. So although technically 1% does leave the community, we're getting more than that back in services. And,
it's like a fee for services. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. What is the United Way? I mean, you talk about organizations, and the United Way is supporting organizations, but how does the United Way, like the money's got to come from somewhere? What is the United Way doing to keep themselves going financially?
Well, and that's a tough question. I mean, right now we're trying to solve the problems of the day right now. We know that we're going to have a very challenging campaign to come up in the fall. Yeah. And right now I'm usually doing presentations to groups, getting them involved in the United Way and getting ready to run a fall campaign. I'm usually meeting with labor leaders, industry leaders, small business, and a number of organizations, just giving the 10 or 15-minute presentation on the United Way, what we're doing with last year's campaign money and what we're going to do with next year's campaign money. All of that is at a standstill. That's not getting done. There's people have got more important things, frankly, on their mind about, how are they going to survive this week? How's the business survive this month? Than to talk about United Way and United Way contributions. Having said that, we are, as I mentioned earlier, thrilled with the response we've had from our compassion fund. But getting back to your initial question, it's going to be a challenge. Fortunately, our board of directors has been proactive. We've been looking at cost cutting for the last couple of years, including our recent move in the office. We've been under budget the last couple of years with our administration. So we've built up a small surplus. So fortunately, we're not going into the campaign with any kind of a deficit. We've always looked at money in equals money out. And as I said, that money that we've saved over the years through better investment decisions, through being under budget with our own campaign and admin costs, gives us a little bit of a rainy day fund. And that rainy day is today. And unfortunately, it's going to be more than a day of rain. It's going to be months, or earlier, maybe 6 months of rainy days. But at least that's something, and we're not in debt at this point. We're very, we're stable. And that is outstanding news for those 18 agencies, 36 programs and services who do get funding from us on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, and like you say, the rainy day fund, so to speak, and we've talked about that many times here, and you hope that rainy day never comes, but that's why it's there. And that's really kind of a good testament, if you will, to the philosophies of the United Way and their thinking and how they put these things together, and they take money and they invest to build, so they don't have to keep asking for money at some point, right? Or less money. Like it seems to be a very good philosophy that the United Way has put together over the years.
Absolutely. We're very conservative with our finances. We make sure that every dollar is well spent, whether it goes to an agency or it goes for administration costs. And to that point, we're able to self-fund that community a compassion fund by $18,000 on day one. And that's just been adding to, hour by hour with community donations. And we're really excited that we know that over the next 2 or 3 days, there'll be other announcements from other businesses about more contributions going to that fund. So again, if I can put out a plug to any charitable organization or not-for-profit organization, if you're struggling to meet the needs of our community, helping your clients, please consider applying for this fund. It's available for you, and we want those who are most vulnerable in our community to get the help that they need.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Dave. And your team, I'm assuming, is still helping you, but from home quarters as well.
Absolutely. You may notice I look at the corner of my eye. I'm watching my text messages there, and constantly we're always keeping each other up to date. Donors are calling, asking questions. The agencies are calling, asking questions. So we're very much at the ready. And as I said, we're very much linked to the office. The only difference is I get free coffee here than what I get.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're getting your free coffee. That keeps you going through. I hear you, man. I'm with you all the way on that. Dave, thank you so much for all your hard work and efforts, and kudos, shout out to your team as well. I'm going to move on here. Is there anything else you want to put out there before I move on to Myles?
Just, it's always a pleasure to join you, David, on the show. It's a great community resource, and I thank you very much for keeping the community up to date on this and other community happenings.
Very good. Dave, nice talking with you. Let's talk again soon. We can't get out in person and have our coffee, but maybe we can do a webinar when we take our coffee break and catch up on other stuff.
I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Dave Brown, our friend from the United Way of Sarnia-Lambton, doing some great things to put out some support. And as he mentioned there, it's nice to see the response. Sometimes in these hard, trying times, the donations drop. And every organization is going through different obstacles right now, but nice to see the response. And we'll look forward to hearing more of the donations that he said are likely to come out over the next few days. Do not hesitate. If you are an organization that's suffering to meet the needs here in Sarnia-Lambton, reach out to them at theunitedway.on.ca, and we'll post all those links after the program as well. All right. Speaking of needing some support, we haven't talked to him a little bit, but our friend Myles Vanni from the Inn of the Good Shepherd is going to join us here and talk to us about the need that they are having.
I don't know how to do that.
Go. Hey, Myles, how are you today?
Very good, Dave. How are you?
You're very good, as he says with a deep breath of
it is sure is interesting times. It's
yes, for sure.
Some challenges and an environment nobody ever imagined having to operate in.
So honestly, how is that going? I mean, that typically an organization like yourself, you're always looking for volunteers and money and donations. How about now?
Well, to set the stage, on the 13th of March, the provincial government announced the closure of the schools for March break and 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
And that set the stage for us right then, because within 24 hours, we had to cancel our Cyclone Aid food drive. We had to cancel our Construction food event. And so in just that 24 hours, we lost 80,000 pounds of food, almost 2 months supply of food for us, and associated fundraising and all that sort of stuff that was in place, empty bowls and the funds raised from Construction. in the end, we were $250,000 down right away in lost food and donations. So that kind of certainly perked us up and said, we've got to figure out this, because while other agencies and businesses are closing for security and safety and helping make sure that distancing takes place, we don't have that ability to close. People still need a daily meal. People still need a food hamper. And even more so, we're anticipating, we've already seen a bit of an increase, but we're expecting more once the impact of the layoffs hit. So we're down in resources, and yet our services are needed even more.
Well, and I was going to say, probably people that don't normally use the service of the Inn of the Good Shepherd, at least food-wise, are probably, you're seeing a new demographic come into what you would normally handle there, I would think. Absolutely.
Within a couple of days of the school announcement and other businesses saying, well, we're laying off or reducing staff, we started getting people calling in and saying, I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm a single mom, or we're a one income family and we've just lost that income. We've seen an increase. I expect we'll see more because anybody being laid off still has that last paycheck coming in. But once they get that last paycheck, I think that will hit home to people to say, now I don't know what I'm going to do next.
Yeah, well, a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck, in this world today, and it's that question comes up a lot. How long could you survive? I mean, and many of us are all in different financial positions, I kind of expected you would see a bit of an overload coming your way. Even the construction, a major event that would have happened, right? I'm assuming has been put off as well, and that's like maybe a month and a half worth of food.
Exactly. The teams were moving in, and we were supposed to build on Saturday, and last Saturday was Cyclone Aid that didn't take place. So, but we have had some tremendous and generous community responses. This is such a great community. We had the London Road Shopping Plaza, a shopping center on Friday, did a drive-through food drive, and you could drop off as you're driving through the parking lot at London Road Shopping Center. And we had some college students from the social services class at Lambton College do a drive-by food drive, and they picked up off of people's doorsteps. So between those two events on the weekend, we raised probably about 12 to 14,000 pounds. We'll see once we get it into the building in Wade. It's out in a truck isolating right now.
Right. And and you say 12 to 14,000 pounds, and that's a lot of food. But for those that don't know, it's still not enough. And I've been trained well. They need 40,000 pounds of food at least in a normal circumstances, right? And that's the size of an empty 20 by 40 pool. So we probably need to fill more than that now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's so the donations coming in, a lot of people have been going online and making donations or sending in a check. So we've started doing purchases with grocery stores to help make sure that supply of food comes in, because we're still open as a food bank. We're just doing it a little differently. People used to be able to come in and go shopping and pick up the choices of what they'd want out of the food bank. But of course, it's so paramount that we limit interaction with people to stop the spread of this virus. So we've gone to a takeout food box, so they can come in the morning, get a box that's all pre-packed. They just come to the door. We hand it out the door, so they don't have to come into the building and do that intermingling with people. So people are still getting those food hampers, and they can come every couple of weeks for one of those now. And we got our hot meals going. What we're just doing is the takeout. So rather than coming in and sitting in the dining room and intermingling with people, then they can come to the door. They're going to get a hot meal in a takeout container, but they're going to get fed. They're going to look after that way.
Right. Well, adjusting times for sure. And speaking of adjusting, how about the staff of the Inn of the Good Shepherd? How is that? How have you had to adapt to, I guess, the working environment? Are there people working from home? Are there still people there? Obviously, there has to be somebody there.
We have a couple of staff working from home. A lot of our roles don't allow it's interacting. It's working with people. It's building food and handling food and that. So most of our staff are here and just being deployed in some different ways. We've got a lot more cleaning to do, like everywhere
Right.
else. We have a screening process, so somebody coming into the building goes through that process. So it's just trying to do more with a couple of less staff. We've got a number of volunteers. The meal teams have been great. They're still coming in, preparing the meal, and they're all volunteer teams, but with smaller groups. And we'll just, rather than plating them to hand out in the dining room, they just go into a takeout container. So the teams are still, we've only had a couple that have had to pull out for different reasons, but most of the teams are still coming in and preparing that meal or preparing it off-site, and they bring it in just to be served into the takeout. So that kind of thing is taking place. We have volunteers helping with putting the food boxes together and just distributing those in the morning. So still lots of hands that are needed.
Yeah. What about the mental health side of things, Myles, between those that are using the services and the staff there? Obviously, you have to try to stay in a very positive mindset to those who are coming in to the United Good Shepherd. How's that working?
And I think that's really important to keep in mind for, because just by the very nature of poverty, it's very isolating. You don't have the resources to go out into the community, to watch a movie, to do any of the kinds of normal interactions that families do. So it's already created a loneliness amongst people. And that's why we try to use the term physical distancing rather than social distancing.
Yes.
Because we still want people to have that connection, to call, to talk, to text, to email, whatever, so that if they've got worries, if they've got stresses, they know there are people there. The number one response I've got from folks as we work with them to get them the food hampers and go to talk to them as they're waiting in the line, is that just such an appreciation that our doors are still open and that they've not been abandoned, because that was their biggest fear. Other people, their families have resources to get groceries and buy up extra stocks of toilet paper or whatever, but they don't have the ability to do that, and their biggest fear is just being left behind. So they're pretty emotional, knowing that we're there to be that support for them. Yeah,
relieve some stress in what's happening. And do you think that, and this is probably just an opinion question, we're not leaving this anytime soon? This is going to continue for some time?
Yeah, I believe so. I think we need to have, listening to the medical experts, they talk about that 14-day isolation period as a way of trying to stop the spread. The more we hear, the more where it seems to be successful, and where there's 2 or 3 of those 2-week isolation periods. So I could see this certainly stretching out to longer than, the original thought when the schools were announced closed was they're back on April 6th. I think it's pretty sure that it's going to be another 2 weeks, if not 4 weeks after that, just to make sure that we've got that isolation period extended, to make sure there's little interaction or amongst people to stop that spread. So we see this as really being able to be a more of a longer term thing, and that's where we're trying to look down the road. Okay, and particularly with supply chains, what do we need? What have we got some of now, but we know in a week or 2 weeks time we're going to be low on, so we can order and purchase that food.
Right. What happens if the government, and there's still talk about it, what if they shut down the country? How would that affect the Good Shepherd?
Well, it was made quite clear when the province set in the state of emergency, or declared a state of emergency, and that only essential services were allowed to operate. It was made quite clear to the food bank network.
Somebody really wants your attention.
Yeah, that it was made quite clear that food banks are considered an essential service.
Yeah,
because like a grocery store. We're a grocery store to many of our population, and that's how they're going to get fed.
Well, that's good to know. Myles, you're obviously busy there, and you need to do a lot of things around there. I appreciate the time you're giving to me here. Is there anything else you want to put out before I let you go?
If I could, just quickly, a couple.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not, of course, not all our programs are running because some aren't as essential as others. But so our Genesis clothing program is closed for now. We have no volunteer sorting or anything. So I wanted to express appreciation. People are calling and saying, "Well, do you need clothes or things like that?" And we just say at this point, we just don't have the capacity when we're trying to focus on food. And because we're not distributing any, we don't have the storage space for that. So at this point, thanks. But if you're able to hold on to it or share it with another thrift store that, can make good use of it, that would be great. But we do have two programs that we are continuing on. One is our snack pack program, which we usually do in the summer. We have brought that back into place now because we recognize with school being out and those student nutrition programs not being in place, kids are missing some of that essential nutrition we relied on at school. So every morning with the food bank hours, families can come and get a snack pack for their children so that they've got 14 snacks, 2 a day, fresh fruit, dairy products to help fill that gap. The other program that we made a point of continuing was our income tax program. And some people kind of wondered about that. And it's a program actually that you had Dave on before me, the United Way is supporting us on, is that if we can do somebody's taxes with the carbon tax refund now, every household gets anywhere from $200 to $500 or $600. And people need that money now. And so you're continuing to do taxes so that they can get that refund. As soon as we e-file it, they get it within 10 days. That may mean that will give them the dollars so that maybe they don't have to come to the food bank for a couple of weeks, or where they can stay up on hydro bill or such. So if people, low-income folks, that we're let them know we're still doing taxes, so they can come in, drop off their information or mail their information to us. We'll process their income taxes to make sure they get that important money. Because for some, it's going to bridge them between their last paycheck and when the EI kicks in.
For sure, and we've talked about that before. I'm glad to hear. I was going to ask you about that program, because the cost of doing your taxes sometimes can save some of the households out there, right?
Exactly, absolutely. So this is kind of one of those programs that, when we really looked at it, thought this is going to help some families to kind of bridge those gaps until other helps are there. So we want them to know we're still doing taxes.
Well, that's fantastic news. And Myles, thanks to you and your team that is there and those that are working from home to keep this much needed facility of the Inn of the Good Shepherd supporting our community out there.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks for joining us again as well. Take care, Myles. Be safe.
Thank you.
Myles Vanni from the Inn of the Good Shepherd joining us here. Thanks to Myles for being here. And again, I meant that. Thanks to the team. Sometimes there's services in our community that maybe we don't normally use. And maybe now all of a sudden, wow, there's a wake-up call going on. And maybe you never thought you would use those services. So check them out online, as I was showing you there, the Sarnia.ca. They're also on Facebook, or you can reach out to them directly. There's Myles Vanni's email and a phone number that you can reach out as well. And if you can, as he said, give some support to the inn. They're still taking donations of food and money, right? The clothes put on hold for now. So again, if you want to find out more, reach out to them directly. Well, I want to say thanks to all of you, and thanks to all of you for yelling at me to turn my microphone on when I didn't in the beginning. But I want to say thanks to all of you for being here and joining me. Still here, and I will be. I've been going live a lot more daily as well. And as things progress here in the community, as I get the news, I'll be happy to share that with you directly. So please keep following along here. If there's something you want to see, because here's the thing, I normally come on here and talk about events that are coming up, and well, that's kind of changed, hasn't it? So if there's something happening in the community, or somebody's doing something, or an event online that is occurring that you want to be shared, reach out to me. I'm happy to put you on here and talk about it. And let's all try to support each other and keep our minds in a positive state of mind. And another reminder before I go as well, don't forget the Friday Night Music Fever. will happen here on the Show with David Burrows Facebook page, along with our friends at K106.3. You can watch it there as well. I'll have the announcements of who's going to be joining us for the acoustic music sessions, the Friday Night Music Fever, this April 3rd at 8 p.m. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining me. That's all the time I got for you this week. Have a great week and an even better weekend. I will see you next time right here on the show. Bye for now.